All right, folks, we are going to talk about how to get set up for our abstract value study warm-up. So the first thing you want to do is get a 7" by 7" square in your sketchbook. So you want to measure from the edge of your paper. My sketchbook's a little bit bigger than yours, but you guys can put the 8 on the edge of the paper the long way. Actually, your spirals are on this side, so, well, whatever works. I'm using a different sketchbook today. So make a mark at 7 and a mark at 0. I'm going to go down to the bottom of the page, make sure my 8 is on the edge of the paper, make a mark at 7 and a mark at 0. And I have chalk pastel dust all over everything, but that's okay. And then I'm going to connect those marks with my pencil. A nice straight line. And then from the top, I'm going to make sure my 0 is on the edge of the paper. Okay. And then I'm going to make a mark at 1 and then a mark at 8. And do the same thing on the other side. So a mark at 1 and a mark at 8. And then flip my ruler and connect those marks. If you guys don't have a ruler, oops, measured that one wrong. Yikes, what did I do there? So it's a little off. If you guys don't have a ruler, actually the package of chalk pastels you guys have is about 7 inches, so you could also just trace that. So now I have a 7" by 7" square. Option 1 is to do the holes and layers design. So what that is you start with your square and then you create 4 to 5 organic shapes that take up, I'm doing this pretty sloppy. I already recorded a video of this, but it didn't save properly, so now I'm redoing it. You want these to fill the edge, go to the edge as much as possible, fill up most of the space, but you don't want to go to the edge. You want to have a border so it feels like there's holes cut out of your paper. Okay, so nice organic shapes that go to the edge and that are about a 1/4 inch away from each other. Then you would shade that first layer. And then you're going to draw additional shapes in between now. So you're going to draw a shape underneath as if the second layer. So this is the first layer, right? And then we see the second layer behind here, but we're going to cut holes in that as well. So that's going to be another layer of organic shapes. These can be a little bit smaller and they're going to stop when they get to that first layer and then continue. So that's another shape. Okay, and you want to shade each layer as you go. That way you don't get confused. So you would break up, and these can be a little bit smaller, but you want them to intersect and go into different shapes as well. So I'll have a little shape come here. Okay, so I'm going to start to shade a little bit because I don't want to get too confused. So I'm going to just basically work in this area here. So you would want to do a very light shadow, drop shadow from the first layer, and you would kind of do this all the way around. And you want to take your time. You don't want to see pencil strokes. I'm doing this very quickly for demonstration purposes. So that first layer would just be like a drop shadow to give it some depth. Then this layer, because it's underneath, would get a little bit darker. So then you would want to gradually build up that layer to get a little bit darker. And this would kind of go over this whole surface. Pay attention to how you're holding your pencil. To maintain the point or to make sure you're not getting pencil strokes. Feel free to rotate your sketchbook for whatever feels comfortable to you, how you're moving. But keep in mind, as we're shading, we don't want to see pencil strokes and we don't want to see white spots. So I'm going to just give this like an overall very light tone in this whole shape. So you want to be able to work around your whole composition as you're doing this. You don't want to just like work in one corner like I'm doing. So pretend that's not streaky, because it's really streaky and it's not good, but that's okay. Then we're going to draw another layer. So this shape might go like this. All right. And then this is another cutout. So then this is going to get darker. And you want to do this one layer at a time so you don't get confused. And then you can do another layer. So let's say you have a shape that comes like this. Okay, and then this can be even darker. So you're practicing how to build up values and how to shade properly and get some really pretty gradients, and work on your pencil work to control how you're shading and making sure you're not getting those streaks. So you would do that so that you end up with basically 4 layers of as if you had paper with different holes cut in it. Okay, so that is the holes and layers drawing. Okay. Okay, so then for the second option, we are using repetitive lines to create a pattern. So what you're going to do is break up your space. You're not going to use a ruler, but these should be nice controlled lines, and they can be straight or curved. What do I want to do here? We'll do like this. So they should meet up at another line or with the edge of your paper, whatever your lines do. Okay. Then what you're going to do is start in one section. So let's say this section, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. So we're going to create lines that are parallel to those 4 sides. We're never going to cross lines. Like, I'm not going to keep going through. I'm going to stop once I get to the next line. So these should be about 1/4 inch or so, or they could be a little bit wider. And you want these to also be nice and controlled so that this is parallel to this. Now I'm going to change direction here and bring this line down nice and straight. Okay, and I'm going to repeat. Stop, and I'll start here and keep doing that until you have filled that section with repeating lines. So something like that, okay? Okay, so once you have your outlines done, you're going to start to shade. This was the version I started earlier. And then let's keep in mind, as we are using our different pencils, the different degrees of those pencils, right? We have the HB, which is your middle of the road. You have 2H. You have, I think, 4H in your set. So anything with an H is a harder pencil. It's going to stay sharper longer. So the bigger the number, the harder the pencil. And then the B's are your softer or darker pencils. So when you guys start to shade this, you want to kind of have a plan for which side of the shape is going to be dark, you know, what's happening in corners. And in the same way that we did on the previous, we don't want to see marks, pencil strokes. We want nice, smooth, even gradients in each little section. Okay. And again, there's further instructions on this in your slideshow or on Schoology, but this is just to get you guys started today. So think about which project you like the best and go for it. Okay. So again, we want to make sure that we're not seeing those streaks. So I go to my next section, and then you have to look at each section in relation to the previous one. Does that little part need to be darker or lighter? Because you want to have a nice deal of contrast between each section. Okay. And then when you're all done, you'll have this really beautiful shaded piece. Okay, and then for your third option, you can start off with this design worksheet. So it gives you the first square filled in with different values. So you want to continue the lines that are already there any way you choose. You want to make sure that you're breaking each of the sections of your grid into at least 4 shapes. So for example, this guy is only broken up into 2 shapes, right? So we need to get an extra line in there somehow to break that up. And that line could carry through your whole composition. It doesn't have to. It's up to you how you want to break that up. But this one's 1, 2, 3. Those are tiny. So maybe I'll do a line from here, right? So now those are broken up into 4 sections. So you're going to start here and you're going to see, okay, well, this section goes from dark to light. So the next section next to it, you want your gradient to go a different direction. Okay. So I'm going to start dark here and then shade up until I get to my 1 or the color of my paper. Now I recommend that you guys do redraw this in your sketchbook. It'll be much easier to get smooth gradients because the texture of copy paper is too smooth and it's pretty lame in terms of using it for art. So then my next section, I would want to maybe start here as my darker value and then go down this way as it gets lighter. So building up layers, changing direction with your pencil, and using smaller, closer strokes is a good way to prevent those visible pencil strokes, which is what we don't want to see. Okay. And see how dark you can get with pencil. Like, yeah, technically you can only go to dark gray, right? This graphite, but see how dark you can get. So you want to change the direction of your gradients every time you do a new section. And again, look at things in relation to the next section. Do you want to go darker? Is there enough contrast? And making sure we don't see pencil strokes. Okay, but you could also take this piece and slide it under a page in your sketchbook, you know, use a ruler to trace the lines that are already there, and then you'll have the same grid but on sketchbook paper, which would be the better way to go. Okay, so that's your abstract value design. Then you have the repeating line, the linear design, and then you have the holes and layers design. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 layers here of these different little organic shapes. And then you're playing with value to create the illusion that there's different layers. So the first one is lighter, the second one is darker, the last one is the darkest. Okay, so enjoy, have fun, and make sure you are working on developing your pencil skills and also ending up with a really cool little abstract drawing. Thanks for watching, guys. Guys, as you're working, use a slip sheet to cover up the areas you already drew. That way when you're, you know, your hand won't smudge something that you already drew. So as you move to work to this area, use that slip sheet and kind of cover up your previous drawing. That way, when you rest your hand on your drawing, you're not smudging your drawing. Another thing, no finger smudging. Okay, if you want smooth area, don't just scribble with your pencil and then try to smudge it with your finger, because that just looks sloppy and smudgy. Okay, that's not the goal. The goal is to use our pencil properly to avoid pencil marks to begin with, so that smudging is never ever needed, because nobody got the time for smudging. Okay, so you want to layer, gradually build up your value, change direction. That way you're not ever needing to smudge with your finger. Okay, so no finger smudging, because that's ugly. Okay, thanks.